The doll came to life on a rain-swept night, with barely any idea of who they are, or were, and so the doll wandered, until eventually she lost sight of her purpose and was swallowed by the night. But in a strange turn of events, this was not the end, for the Nightfarers would be sent to liberate the doll, drawn to her via a phantom that appears in the Round Table Hold. It's almost as if this phantom of the doll is gazing at a portrait of Radigan, and sure enough, interacting with it then transports us to an identical portrait of Radigan, this time in Limveld. And here, not far from the second portrait, stands the night-tainted doll. This sequence of events makes me wonder, could the portrait be a clue? A suggestion that Radigan or Marika are offering our Nightfarers some sort of guidance here? Indeed, defeating the tainted doll, the so-called Night Idol, causes the Revenant to join the Nightfarers at the Round Table Hold. The night within her has receded, and she has recalled her purpose, declaring,
"I will have my revenge."
How are you feeling? There are some who are wary of your companionship.
The eerie figure of a sentient doll is unsettling enough, but what's truly alarming to the Nightfarers is the fact that this doll completely succumbed to the night, and yet somehow regained control afterwards. It's a miracle, but her initial acceptance of the night has not come without consequence. In version 1.0 of her remembrance, the Wilder spoke plainly, fearing the Revenant's changing form could become a danger to the Round Table, just as it was told there was something unusual happening to the doll's frame, which bore dark discolorations of resistance. The Revenant could sense that it was because she was now resisting the night she had once accepted. The sweetness she remembered from before was an ever-present temptation now. So, ever rational, the Guardian proposes the doll perform a task to earn the trust of her new allies, and as she fights, some of the fog surrounding her memory lifts. Her Chapter 2 remembrance reads, "I look in the mirror. I remember my name is Daphne, daughter of the prestigious House of Northerncroft, a family of master puppeteers. But then, upon the day of a fearsome storm, the night swallowed the entirety of the family estate." Basically, at this stage in her remembrance, the doll believes that she was the daughter of the house, Daphne. She remembers being murdered, only to rise again within the doll's frame. And it's certainly a reasonable conclusion for her to draw. She's struggling to piece together hazy memories of a single night, and among them, she vividly recalls this murdered girl. So, naturally, she assumes that she must be her. But the contamination is clouding things. It isn't so simple as she believes, and her dreams contain the first hint of that. Chapter 3 reads, "Though my form is that of a doll, yet do I dream. Upon the night of the storm, nothing stirs within the estate, except for me, now inhabiting the unfamiliar body of a doll, aimlessly prowling the grounds. Then something strokes my cheek." There's a touch of foreshadowing here, in her memory of having her face caressed, and also in her fondness for having her makeup done.
How are you faring today, champion? Don't be afraid to come to me if you require any maintenance. As a kindred being, I take such matters very seriously.
The menial offers a makeup kit to veil the night's scars upon her face, yet such concealment will avail her little. The real issue is that there's a truth hidden by the night, and the doll is afraid to face it.
Your condition has worsened. There's only so much that can be hidden. We'll have to do something about that. Listen carefully. Your condition, the contamination, it's spreading. If it continues, you'll be swallowed by the night again. You must conquer this fear of the night. You might say the words, but deep down, you do not believe them. Go to see the witch. She should be able to help.
wouldst halt the contamination, yes? Those who have surrendered themselves to the night even once are powerless to resist its allure. The night within thee hath begun to fester. Whether or not it can be kept in check is entirely dependent upon thee. Please sit, when thou art sure of mine. Close thine eyes. Find the thing of which thou art afeard.
And so, the doll casts her mind back to the events of that fateful night. There's a gap in her memories, and the knight has used this toehold to take root, granting her relief by festering over something that she would much rather forget. Defeat the corrosion that clouds her memories, and the doll finds her fear. She had assumed that she was Daphne, daughter of the house, but the letters carved upon the doll reveal that the daughter wasn't named Daphne. The doll was.
Dolly dear, thou shouldst by now have ascertained that which thou must face. Wilt thou the truth uncover upon the next attempt?
Past the portrait of Edgar Northerncroft is the room where the killing took place. But it's not just the murder that she's afraid of, rather it's the truth that it hides. So, this time, the contamination takes the form of a revenant, a vengeful corpse, risen from the dead. In a way, it's her mirror. And with the darkness banished, the doll can finally recall what took place here, and what it suggests about her. The broken window reveals the night's rain, pouring into the estate. We know the night affects everyone in different ways, some even positively, but more often than not, the night-tainted are driven to kill every living thing, even if that means murdering those that they're closest to. We see this situation mirrored in Wilder's Remembrances, where he dreams of the long night that drove his clansfolk to madness, turning his home into nothing more than a sea of gravestones. In other words, the dead were slain by their kin. Similarly here, I believe the daughter, whose real name is Chloe, fell victim to a family member who had succumbed to the night. And curiously, there's no mention of Chloe's parents anywhere in the lore. As far as her family is concerned, we only really learn about her grandfather, the esteemed patron of Northerncroft, who is depicted in this painting, but also in the old portrait, which bears the tender message, "Chloe, seek happiness, for you deserve it more than anyone." But while the mother and father are never mentioned, I suspect they may still be seen and heard in this cinematic. Seen, perhaps, in the form of the murderer, a middle-aged man dressed like one of the manor's own, and heard in the shrill screams that could belong to the mother. This woman is being murdered, occupying the killer's attention as the daughter of Northerncroft hides. But fate has other ideas. As the girl's life is taken, the doll begins to stir. The rise of the Revenant is tied to Chloe's end. On that night, the doll understood. The young girl wished to live, and with that understanding, the doll found her purpose. vengeance. She had forgotten all of this, but in the end, these painful memories are fully restored. The Revenant's final remembrance reads, "I grasp the portrait and face the mirror. The daughter of the house is no more. She will never caress my face again, no matter how I yearn. I never was a human, and now the mantle of doll no longer fits me. I never was a human." This admission distances the Revenant from the daughter of the house. She has accepted that she is not Chloe. She no longer feels as if she's the doll Daphne, either. Instead, I think here she's embraced what she truly is, the Revenant, a vengeful spirit. In Elden Ring, vengeful spirits are represented visually by floating skulls drawn towards their foes. And if we peek behind the doll's facade, we see this, the true face of the Revenant. What I think is Chloe's vengeful spirit, which latched onto the beloved doll in the moment of her death, for one purpose, and one purpose only, to bury the Night Lord, who took away the happiness that the daughter deserved.
Indeed, though scattered thou wast, thou art now whole. All is well.
Let me show you one of the nicest displates we've ever made. The concept for this was a battle royale filled with 100 little references to the games you love. The art is whimsical and unique and came out great, but what really elevates it is the insanely luxurious finish it has. This print has literally every high-end technique they could muster, and it shows. The reason they went all out with this is because this print has been nominated to be one of Displate's ultra limited editions. With Displate's most expensive printing techniques and only 700 copies available, you won't be able to get it for long. But if it's out of stock or not for you, which is totally understandable, then I would highly recommend you check out my other prints available during Displate's Black Friday sale. This is their biggest sale of the year, so this is when all of them will be cheapest. Buy 1 or 2 Displates for 37% off, 3 or 4 for 43% off, or more than 5 for 46% off. Just be sure to check out via the link in the description. I've stuck with this sponsor for so long because their prints are genuinely of good quality, and it's a joy to commission so much gorgeous art for you all to easily hang on your walls. Anyway, thank you for watching this sponsored spot and supporting my videos. Let's get back to it. There are many paintings in the Round Table Hold, but there is only one that is of extreme importance to the Nightfarers, for it is a preservation of the Erd Tree and its grace, which has long been lost to the dimension of Limveld.
May I ask you something? I heard that in the lands between, there was once a thing of wonder known as the Erd Tree. The monolithic tree was said to be a symbol of the land's blessings. Did you ever see it for yourself? What a sight it must have been. The vastness of nature is apt to stir something within. No wonder you were so enamored by it.
Surely you can see it. The light is fading fast. It won't be long now. We have no choice but to augment what little grace we enjoy, and your memories will be the key.
Of all the Nightfarers' remembrances, I think Executor's is by far the most difficult to interpret. His questline culminates here in this artist's shack, where we see the aftermath of a bloody scene. A Crucible Knight lies dead, murdered outside the painter's hut, and within, the artist herself lies dead, mourned by another Crucible Knight, who promptly commits seppuku. This is the memory at the core of the Executor, a murder mystery of sorts, which we're left to unravel. So let's get to it. The scene takes place at the artist's shack, so let's begin with the artist herself. This painter washed ashore upon the lands between, but she originally hails from the distant land of reeds, a blood-soaked realm that lies far to the east. The base game tells us more about this place. Apparently, it has long been locked in a bloody civil war, during which time it has remained isolated from the cultures of its neighbors. It is said that the entire nation has succumbed to blood-soaked madness, and indeed the artist appears to be no exception. She sports not just talent with the brush, but also a mastery of the sword that must have been honed in her homeland. But at some point, it seems the artist left this world behind, whether by shipwreck or otherwise. The text describes her as having washed up upon the lands between, where she then gazed upon the Erd tree and was inspired by what she saw. So inspired, in fact, that she took up her brush and laid down her sword. This cursed katana is a very curious weapon. Let me explain. So at the end of his story, the Executor has their memories restored. They recall the wound to their stomach and it manifests there and then. Similarly, they recall the name of their cursed sword, Suncatcher, and something changes with it as well.
The blade you wear upon your hip is not the same as it once was. Not in outward appearance, but in its very being. I wonder why I feel so strongly this must be true. Perhaps it is because I too reside in a frame inanimate.
A frame inanimate. The menial seems to be suggesting that something resides inside the inanimate frame of this sword. Indeed, the artist herself personifies the sword, calling it an old friend and a silent witness. From Software have a long tradition of designing cursed katanas that bewitch and eat away at the life force of their wielder. The Makoto of Demon Souls was one, the Chaos Blade of Dark Souls was another, and the Suncatcher, which is tied to an Executor relic that drains HP on hit, seems to be the latest in this long line of soul-corrupting katanas. Though admittedly it doesn't appear quite as sinister as the other ones. What do you guys think? Maybe I'm reaching, but if this sword is cursed or bewitched, then maybe it factored into the artist's decision to give up her weapon, for she passes it on to the Crucible Knight, who would slay himself with it in the end. Let's discuss him next. For some background on the Crucible Knights, they were an order of ancient warriors who served Lord Godfrey as the Age of the Erd Tree was founding. Able to call upon the primordial energies at the root of the Erd Tree, the Crucible Knights fought with horn, tail, and wing, a conglomerate of aspects once revered as divine evolutionary markers, but that were later disdained as chaotic signs of regression. In time, the Crucible Knights, too, were scorned, their sacred order left to wander and roam. According to the text, the Crucible Knight arrives at the hut as an executioner, intent on dispatching the artist. And that's all we're told. We're given absolutely no information on what crime it is that the artist has committed, but apparently it's enough for this elite knight to have been sent, presumably on behalf of the Erd Tree. In the absence of any real explanation for this, I propose that it might have been a crime for the artist to simply be here at all. This dangerous foreign samurai has made a home in the Altus Plateau, right by the Erd Tree capital, a transgression, perhaps, for one without any gold in their eyes. Yet, when the Crucible Knight arrives here to kill her, he hesitates. The artist is painting the Erd Tree. To interrupt such a thing seems wrong to him, clearly. After all, the Crucible Knights were those who drew their primordial strength from the Erd Tree and were among its earliest servants, so the knight stays his hand and resolves to wait, becoming the artist's guest until their Erd Tree is complete. But this presents a problem for the artist, for she knows that another executioner will be sent if the first fails to carry out his duty, and she knows that her painting won't be finished in time. Her solution is to grant the guest her old sword, which he accepts and even decides to wield in the battle to come. For another executioner does indeed arrive, a Crucible Knight just like the first, whose appearance breaks the stalemate at the painter's shack. What follows is the scene of the murders. The second executioner appears to have killed the painter, only to fall themselves to the guest, who is the only one left standing. He kneels over the artist, who seems to have crawled into the shack and, filled with regret, decides to commit seppuku, ending his life with the artist's own blade. It all seems like a simple enough story, but what complicates this scene is the existence of the Executor. For the text makes it clear that the Executor is the artist. The Executor is the guest. The Executor is even now the sword itself. How can this be? The prevailing theory amongst those I've discussed this with appears to be that the artist, the guest, and the sword merge together in the end, forging the crucible of beings that is the Executor, a samurai rising in the aftermath with their flesh partially fused with the misshapen armor of the Crucible Knight. Indeed, the Executor is described as being of two faces and one sword. Able to manifest an enormous primordial beast for a short while, the Executor appears to have a deeper connection with the Crucible than any other we've seen. And that makes sense considering the Executor is themselves a conglomeration of many beings, which is a very Crucible-esque concept. However, this mastery of the Crucible clearly did little to remedy their reputation in the eyes of the Erdtree. They were deemed worthy of execution long ago, and their murder of a fellow Crucible Knight certainly can't have helped matters. Indeed, we learn that after this crime they were captured, but then they went missing after a prison stint in the lands between. What happens afterwards here is hazy, but it seems Grace or the Erdtree, or both, had other plans besides the Executor's death. For they were needed elsewhere. Their memory of gold was needed elsewhere. Their painting must be completed elsewhere, in Limveld, where the Executor would eventually appear, a soul drenched in blood, yet willing to face the night. Here, the Executor is special amongst his peers, for he alone has a memory of the Golden Realm and this eye for beauty, allowing him to locate relics that positively brim with grace. Specifically, our Executor is faced with finding flowers, which the menial then asks him to render upon the canvas. It's a grand idea, but the Executor's doubt comes creeping in.
What's done is done. The Erdtree is no more. What is lost can never return.
This doubt, this disembodied voice, is yet another face of the Executor, except in this instance the speaker is the knight that has taken root within him. I'm certain of it because it's the same voice that belongs to the knight-tainted Executor who duels with him at the end, seeking to break down his will to fight. The voice rings true. The Erdtree is no more, and grace does continue to wane at the center of the Round Table hold.
It's like a cracked chalice, leaking as it's replenished. If the seeds would only sprout, it could be restored. But that will take time. We've tried all we can. Our original plan will have to do.
Foolish and pitiful to cling to an impossible hope.
But there is a moment where the priestess divines promise from her formless master, inviting the Executor to lend his blade to one impossible chance.
I heard the voice. A golden seed has begun to sprout in a harsh land of frigid cold. Where no one sets foot, it's calling to you. This might be selfish, but please, imagine if we're successful this time.
This seed sprouted, despite the harshness of its environment, like youthful potential blossoming in the crucible of adversity. In other words, it was a miracle.
I knew you'd soon return. I can feel the warmth of its radiance. Please, this time it has to work.
When the golden sprout is offered, it stirs a memory, as though this surge of grace has swept away the night and restored the Executor's lost memories. Though, first, the knight within him would make a final stand, urging the Executor to accept the fate written in the night sky, to surrender and let it take control.
Behold its majesty. It never fails to move me. Peer upon it from afar. Be satisfied with what you have. I will curtail the threat that awaits us, and let any who dare disturb such peace face my blade.
It's during this duel that we're given this rare glimpse into just how persuasive the knight can be.
Don't place yourself in harm's way. Clear your thoughts. Accept your fate.
But the Executor's will is stronger.
And yet still you surge. Foolish other self. Then I ask that you live without averting your gaze.
In the end, the knight relents to the Executor's hope, as grace endures when reason says it should not. And before it fades, the knight charges the Executor with a duty to stay true to the Erd Tree, to never look away. It's an intriguing moment to think that with its final breath, the knight would invite the Executor to stay true to the very light it set out to extinguish. But it's fitting, for it mirrors the ending of Nightreign, where the knight itself chooses to walk away from Limveld, swayed by the power of grace and its Nightfarers. The knight is not defeated, per se. Rather, it's almost as if it is persuaded, moved by grace.
We've reclaimed the light of grace. We owe this to you. Thank you, truly. But what's this wound? From your memories. I vow, as priestess, that the Erd Tree will live again. It shall be as you remember. So please, do not lose sight of yourself.
Before I go, in case you missed it, I recently announced that I'm writing a book on Elden Ring's lore. It's called Lorebound, and essentially, it's my YouTube channel in physical form. So if you'd like to own my interpretation of Elden Ring's lore, check out the announcement videos and consider pre-ordering. Thank you, as always, for the support. I'm very privileged to have it. I'll see you next time.